Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Kadowski. And now we'd kind of like to refresh and get back to the original dream that I had for the creation of an arts-based school, something that I had seen in other counties when I went to Sacramento, and I was able to talk and converse with Dr. Stevens, and I finally again worked up the courage to ask her to come down here and address the assembled folks. We did so in the Pine Inn. Was the first time that we actually got together, and then got together with folks like Phil and Luis Valdez, and really started to think in terms of what this school, this dream school, would look like. And the school would need to serve the needs of the county's students. And this would be, in particular, the county's under and non-served students. So having that in mind, and after a lot of hard work and bringing folks down from Sacramento, we had a combination of some of the best thinkers in the state, along with Dr. Stevens, and she was able, for you folks that are here from the Millennium, she framed the foundation of your school. And it was through her work, through Jack's work, Nancy Carr, and again, some of the leading educators at that time in the state of California that helped us draft the petition and the framework, which is now at the core of the charter school. Vicki Stevens is just, it's staggering to try to describe all of the different things that she is and has been and continues to be. She's a clinical psychologist, she's a psychoanalyst, she's a speaker extraordinary, she is a professional developer, she's a writer, she's a researcher, she's worked with traumatized veterans, she's worked with foster children, the homeless, she's worked with youth gangs, and she's always using the arts as a basis for her work. You know, recently I was trying to describe all of the things that Vicki is for me and for the state, and what? No one person can possibly do all of that. And I saw this person a couple of weeks later and said, you know what, I actually did research her, and she has. And it is absolutely amazing. She's an accomplished concert musician. She's a performer. She's a member of the Grammy Foundation. And the list goes on and on. But most importantly for me, she is a source of continuous inspiration and admiration for all that she is and all that she has done. So this afternoon I'd like you to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Victoria Stevens.
Hey. Thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure. We do our own stands in the clubs to be here. I love Monterey. Hamish, Nancy, Jack, we were all part of this team that started this incredible bringing together of career technology, education, and the arts for all youth, and equity and access, and a commitment to having the community come together with all of its resources and be a model for the state, and it is. And today I want to say, first of all, how thrilled I am to meet all of the faculty that are at the school and all of you that are working in the community, the arts council, the museum. I know there are people that I'm not sure that I know who all you are, but I know from different areas of maybe San Benito as well as Santa Clara. I've worked in all of these counties and have appreciated the differences and the unique contributions that each of the schools make in each of their communities. And Phil and Teatro Campesino, you know, all part of this. Today, what I wanted to think about is how we take things to the next place. There is so much research, there are so many different reasons that we all know that the arts are important. We understand about creativity and innovation, and we all understand the challenges. And what I wanted to talk about is kind of at a higher level. What do we do when we've achieved something, which everyone here has? There's no question about it. And then think about how do we really keep our commitment and our promise to the kids and really fulfill what we know we can do. And it's difficult, it's challenging, but I think that this is the conversation that we can have because of all of the work that has been done and because of the accomplishments that have happened. So I talked about, in my title, creativity, imagination, and collective conscience. So I wanted to talk today about a few things from a little bit of neuroscience. As Hamish said, I do work with trauma and creativity, with children, with veterans. I work with survivors of all different kinds of abuse and trauma. And I was mentioning to Jack earlier when we were talking that psychology is currently getting turned on its head in terms of bringing the arts in to trauma treatment and understanding the language of the body in reference to emotional trauma. It is relevant for psychology as much as it is for teachers, for the ability to learn and focus for children, and for their experiences outside of the school, and their experiences not just walking home or at home, but in terms of the culture and social media, economic, political, fear, violence. We all know all of this is true. So I want to talk about this a little bit and make a sort of a case for rigor and working harder and working together. And I'm going to set it up for Jack to talk about the new standards that are going to be coming and hopefully inspire you to want to learn how to do this. So that's my goal. So there we go. Whoops. I clicked. So we all know, I'm sure, the story of the Good Samaritan from our growing up in any kind of religious orientation that we might have had, and it's a parable. But I want to talk a little bit about a study that you may or may not know of that happened in Princeton in 1973. And what happened was there were two researchers, and they said, I am very interested to find out why people help or why they don't. Under what circumstances. So taking the idea from the Good Samaritan, where the Samaritan ends up helping the man who was stripped and left for dead on the side of the road, as opposed to the Levite and the priest. And so why do people do that and why don't they? And so what they devised was an experiment. And the experiment went something like this. They had seminary students who were trained to give and told, they were trained in terms of giving sermons, but they were also told to create a sermon about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And then they divided them into different groups and with different conditions. And so under one condition, they were told, you have to move from this building and so that you can give your talk in the next building, and you're late. And you have to go really fast. And in another condition, they were told that you have a little bit of time, and in another one, they had plenty of time. Along the way, they planted an actor who was in pain and on the sidewalk, on the way, on the pathway, right on their way. They couldn't miss it. And so what they did was they looked to see how many people stopped and why. And you can probably imagine that out of the conditions, the people that were in the hurried condition didn't stop the most. Actually, 10% of the students stopped when they were in a hurry, in a rush, and 63% in the non-hurried. But the rushed group also, some of them even walked over the body of the person who was lying, the victim. So the point here is that we have some evidence, and this was something that spurred a lot of research, which is to find out what happens to us when we are under stress, and how we miss details that are important, and how we miss the big picture. And what we know now is that stress, external stress, internal stress, will literally shut down your creative thinking. It will shut down your ability to pay attention to what's going on around you. It will shut down your ability to think critically and be able to ask questions, because we move into survival mode and we move into fight or flight. And it becomes very narrow in terms of self-preservation. And that's what happens when we are overwhelmed with a variety of different kinds of stress. And so the picture here, we see all too often, people walking by the homeless for whatever reason. But I do want to think about how we can, why is it that when we have so many resources available to us, often we default to just getting through, right? So we have stated conscious intentions. I want to do this. I want to develop creativity in my kids, my imagination. It's great. Music, we know it's important. And then what happens when we get derailed? What happens when we're going through the day and we have this and we have that and we've got this and we've got that, or we've got money issues, we've got budgetary issues in terms of the bigger picture of hiring, right? What happens when we're under stress or under fear for our jobs, for our lives, for whatever reason, that we actually begin to lose our focus? So how many of you have the experience of having a stated conscious intention, you believe in it totally, you want to achieve it, and yet you find yourself either not doing it or doing the opposite? Yeah. So it happens, right? So how do we walk according and live according to our purpose? How do we do that, especially under stress? Okay, so creative thinking then is gone, and we get what we call hijacked by our amygdala and our emotional brain. Now, this happens with our students under stress at school. It happens in test conditions, but it happens for a variety of reasons. But nevertheless, when the emotional brain then floods our frontal cortex, we have problems with attention and with memory, and that will show up in terms of things like test scores, or the ability to literally remember what you have learned. And then often when that happens, we have kids that are made to feel or diagnosed as having a learning problem or not doing well, when in fact they're just overloaded. But this happens to us as well. So we default to the familiar, to fight or flight, to our survival, and focus on self-interest and self-protection, or do whatever it is that we have done before in order to manage stress. Okay? For some people, it's dissociating and spacing out. For some people, it's just running around and getting very active or getting agitated, right? We can go either direction. And so this lack of attention, and we lose our focus on the important information and details right near us and the big picture. So why is this important? Because we have available to us resources. We have people that are committed to the same purposes that we are. We have on websites, CSESA, which is the Superintendents Association, has a bazillion different kinds of resources for arts education. We have research like crazy, and yet are we actually doing sequential, progressive, standards-based arts education pre-K through 12th grade for all children? Are we actually doing it? When we have CTE, are we bringing in the arts? Are we actually teaching mastery so that we can then use what we've learned for creative innovation and improvisation? In order to improvise, in order to innovate, you have to have mastery of information. You have to know what you're working with and then play with it, right? So when we have standards, we've had them for years, right? How many people have actually had kids that had, when they're in 8th grade, had pre-K through 7th grade, they've done all of the standards and mastered those skills? by the time you have them in 8th grade, right? Have we had that? So have we been keeping our promise to the kids? Have we, actually? So what we know why the arts are important. We have tons of research on that, years of research, states and national mandates for arts education. That arts are considered to be essential for education for all children, right? For educating the whole child. We have national state standards and resources, community resources. Great things have happened here. The Monterey Peninsula University Unified School District, Diffenbauer, he has done beautiful work with turnaround arts in Greenfield. We have what has happened here, which is amazing, with all the support that you've given from the county. And all of this that has happened, you know, we know that it can happen. We know when people work together, we can do this. So what the problem is, and yet, you know, the statistics in California are dismal overall. You know, students who participate in the arts increased from 38 to 39%. Students with no access to the arts were overrepresented in charter schools. Students at schools who receive free or reduced lunch have lower participation rates in the art. And another group that had less access is English language learners because of remediation for language arts. And so, and I'll tell you, the foster kids that I've worked with, which I worked with for many years in South Central, in middle school and high school, will tell me that they're routinely taken out of the arts so that they are having remediation in math and language. And it's almost either a punishment or it's or it is making them feel like because they're stupid, right, they need this. And what happens is they're already overloaded and dysregulated. Then they cram information into an already overloaded brain without giving the tools to learn how to regulate their emotions, which the arts can actually do. So this is something that's actually creating more of a problem, with no knowledge of the brain science behind being overloaded, overwhelmed, and stressed out. So reasons: budgets, time in the school day for instruction, A through G requirements, test prep, remediation, cost of hiring, time for training, time for collaboration. All of these are the reasons, but are these reasons real? And are they something that you should buy? And are they something that actually is something, is a good enough problem, if you will, a serious enough problem that would justify not doing what we know the kids need? And I think the answer is no. The answer is no, it isn't. So how do we think creatively? Now, how are we going to teach creativity to our kids if we're not thinking creatively? If we're so overloaded with our stress that we're just getting through the day and going through one thing and another and defaulting to the familiar. So we have to be able to walk our talk. That's what today's talk is all about. So what is our purpose? What is our purpose for our children? And what is the world that they are walking into, the future? So what we know is that we're approaching the time when machines will be able to outform humans at almost any task. Society needs to confront this question before it's upon us. If machines are capable of doing almost any work humans can do, what will humans do? What can we train our kids to be able to do so they have jobs in the future? We know they will have multiple careers, multiple jobs. How do they deal with change, with flexibility, not be defined by only one thing? What are the skills that cross all different domains? And I will tell you, it's not your GPA score, it's not your stat score, and it's not your skills in any particular domain. It is the skills that cross them, right? And so one thing that machines and AI cannot do is think and learn in terms of creative play the way that a human can, right? And so we need to know how to prepare our kids for the jobs of the future. I pulled this study up that I'll talk about in a second, but the skills that we know that we've called the 4 C's have to be unpacked and thought about as we would with any subject. With backwards planning, creativity is number 1, critical thinking is number 2, collaboration, communication, 4 C's. I would add curiosity and consciousness, but those are the ones that are considered the 4 C's. But even so, we want to unpack and operationalize terms. In other words, as teachers, as educators, how would we know we have achieved this? How would you be able to assess the fact that your second graders are listening to each other and responding empathically? Can you do that? I'd say yes, you can. You can do that in any area. And what I've divided is the 21st century skills into creative thinking, critical thinking, self-awareness, and empathy as 21st century skills. But you can do these as a way to then have an umbrella that it can include anything in a common core, an art area, and academic area, if you want to be teaching to these skills. But these skills will not happen just because we're teaching a particular subject, including the arts. Just playing in orchestra is not going to necessarily lead to empathy, will it? As a matter of fact, for most kids that are trained in the arts in a very, kind of like really super focused way, and those of you who've taken lessons like me know, we're pretty isolated, right? It's not necessarily about empathy unless we teach with that in mind. Everything that Jack is going to be talking to you about the new standards, are about how you teach. It's pedagogy. So we need to learn how to teach to these skills. And so the Google study that I pulled up is very recent, and it's telling of the future. Because Google looked at all their top employees and the people that they hired, and they had the top skills that would lead to somebody doing well at Google and being hired at Google. And here they are: being a good coach, communicating and listening well, possessing insights into others, including different values and points of view, having empathy toward and being supportive of one's colleagues, being a good critical thinker, being a good problem solver, and being able to make connections across complex ideas, which is another way to say creativity. STEM expertise was the dead last. So if we say that our kids have the STEM expertise and will be able to get jobs in tech, are we telling them the truth? They need more than that, okay? The team study was similar. Now, again, when you think about project-based learning and you look at the teams, how are you assessing this? Are you assessing this? Are you having the kids be conscious of this? Emotional safety, confidence in speaking up and making mistakes, equality, generosity, curiosity, empathy, and emotional intelligence. Okay? These are all the skills that cross everything. They cross into success in any area. So all are taught most effectively and directly through sequential and integrated arts instruction. And again, sequence, progressively scaffolded with gradual integration into other subjects as we move from pre-K through 12. Findings from research very quickly: the arts make important economic contributions. And Jack and I were just talking that now, as I was saying, in therapy, we're training therapists to do expressive movement and music, because we know that all of the arts are essential for brain development in children and also healing early trauma. So there are jobs now that are going to be needing the art skills and vice versa, and training. But also there's remediation for grown-ups going on now. I've been training doctors in jazz improvisation because they don't know how to relate to their other humans, and corporations are paying thousands of dollars to do, to do improvisation as part of their team building. They're doing arts in, because they didn't get it K-12, right? Teachers benefit from arts education, right? We all benefit. And teachers, and I mean when I say teachers, classroom teachers, as well as teaching artists and credentialed artists and professional artists. That's all of our team. Arts increase critical thinking skills. Exposure to art affects values and makes kids more empathic. It's a universal language, social cohesion. We learn how to collaborate through art and apply skills to other areas. That's transfer again. Art teaches unique habits not taught by other subjects, right? Which is the intrinsic value of the arts. And it's an important complement to test preparation, and improves cognitive attention and memory skills, which all of this has research backing to it, which if anybody wants the actual studies, I have them. I wanted to add this because I wanted to talk about something we don't always hear about: post-truth. We're in a post-truth era. 2016, it was the Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year. That means if objective facts are not being taken as a basis for decisions and judgment, we are being manipulated by emotions, right, and by beliefs. That means that we need to train our kids to be able to read emotions, to be able to separate emotions and beliefs from critical thinking skills and evidence. We need to teach them how to separate propaganda from truth. We need to teach those critical thinking skills, reading and managing and regulating emotions, critically questioning our assumptions, and speaking truth to power are crucial skills as individuals and citizens for the integrity of our democracy. And that is a serious thing right now. And critical protections also against manipulation, oppression, and abuse. So how do we help with the Me Too? We don't just talk about Me Too. We learn how to speak up. We learn how to, not just self-expression, but how to speak up, especially when we're under stress and in fear. How do we teach these skills? Now, again, a voice for the voiceless. This is what the arts do. The art, that's why I said conscience. The arts are the reflection of humanity's conscience. So we are talking about oppression. We're talking about our history. We're talking about equality. We're talking about dehumanization through language can be unpacked and looked at through the arts, and also, of course, that's an English language, study experiment together with history to get, and again, if you think thematically and then you link these together, it's powerful for the kids, and then move it into project-based learning. So also, I just want to say this about trauma. Kids who've had repeated trauma, including abuse, neglect, or insecure and disorganized attachment, leading to emotional deficits and being easily overloaded, not only put those children at a disadvantage in terms of social and emotional skills, but also the cognitive skills necessary for learning the basics of a core academic curriculum. And if those skills are not taught or developed directly, or through a sequential, integrated, and interdisciplinary arts education program, as part of every school curriculum, many foster youth, as well as others who are at risk or vulnerable, are left unequipped for success in the 21st century workplace, even if they graduate. And this is the truth. So we have to remember what training, if well done in the arts, can actually provide our students for their success in school, after school, as leaders, as creators, innovators, parents, partners, and citizens. This is our purpose, is what I'm explicating here. And it's not just feeling great, and it's not just self-expression or play, which is hugely important, but it's bigger and more important than that. And again, everyone here already is committed to that, but how do we recommit to that? And then think about, in our actions every day, are we living according to this? Are our choices in terms of curriculum, how we spend the time, how we spend our money, connected to that? So when we talk about college, workplace, and world ready, are we telling the truth to our kids? Are we really doing that? And can we do better? Now, this is not something that's impossible. So we can tilt the windmills. Look, Hamish came up to me and said, I have a dream, and I'm going to just take everything you said and make a school. It is exactly what Nancy said in Field of Dreams. Build it, they will come. And she came in, and everybody said, okay, we're going to do it. So it can happen. So what is needed? All right, training in visual performing media arts standards, the new ones, focusing on the creative process as well as art skills for classroom teachers, credentialed art teachers, and teaching artists. So this is linking through pedagogy with everyone working together. Then we're going to need training in how to link the arts to Common Core standards, other academic areas, and CTE through integrative pedagogy and collaborative projects and assessments at all levels, which it can be done. This can be done through focus on creative thinking, critical thinking, self-awareness, and empathy as 4 areas of student-learner outcomes. Sequence scaffolded curricula in all art forms individually, and then integrated and project-based, pre-K through 12th grade for all students, especially those who are at risk, have experienced trauma, twice exceptional, which, if you don't know what that means, that's gifted, and kids who have learning issues, and special needs. Thoughtful links to professional artists, organizations, parents, continual collaboration, and administrative support for teachers to be able to do this. Remembering that training, discipline, practice, structure, and constraints are necessary for creative, imaginative, combinatory play and mastery in any field. That means practice and mastery in these basics give us the ability to play with them as the kids grow older and more sophisticated, as well as the ability to let go of assumptions and truths and tolerate the disruption that is part of curiosity, wonder, questioning, growth, learning, and transformation. So remember that the brain, mind, body system is absolutely in resistance to change and doesn't like it. On the other hand, we are totally wanting it. And we are absolutely loving to question and discover and continue to create. So we have to learn to tolerate disruption and the discomfort in order to continue to transform. So teachers, principals, administrators have creative improvisers. That's what we all need to live this, right? And be creative together. A note about computers and technology. Computers are a tool but do not teach creative or critical thinking. Sensory hands-on learning comes first, so we need to really be thinking about our pre-K, K, and elementary. Studies show that there are drops in creativity when you eliminate the arts from tech. And remember, the employers are looking for skills related to arts learning like pattern perception, flexibility, teamwork, trained attention, patience, people reading skills, character, ability to write, read, and comprehend across the board. And thorough arts training does not need a huge budget, just thoughtful teaching and creative use of resources. So it's not about money. You can have a lot of money. It's what you do with it, right? So just a few quick things that don't, you can imagine how much money this costs. And all of these I've used as prompts for writing, for acting, for stories, for storytelling, like this one. You wouldn't believe what the kids came up with this one. And poems, and what happened right here, tell me, and all kinds of things came up about shootings and gangs in their neighborhood and death. I mean, it was very powerful, and it cost like $0, right? Okay. So that's another one. And again, McDonald's. So again, making the ordinary extraordinary, seeing things differently, the eyes of an artist. You don't need money for it, right? It's how you see it. You can walk down the streets and look at fences and doors. This is a favorite one. It's called cashew. But again, there's so much in it. This is another one, and that I love. Yeah, okay. And you can see what you can do with these, right? And the kids, it's amazing. And this one is for all of us. You have to think about it. It's everyone's dream, right? We're going to be that iceberg, right? Okay. So to neglect the contribution of the arts in education, either through inadequate time, resources, or poorly trained teachers, is to deny children access to one of the most stunning aspects of their culture and one of the most potent means for developing their minds. So to close here, ikigai is a Japanese word whose meaning translates roughly to reason for being, encompassing joy and a sense of purpose and meaning, sense of well-being. It roughly means the reason you get up in the morning. So why do we get up in the morning? Why are you all here? Why do you do your jobs? We don't do this for the money. We don't do this for the fame, right? You do it because you love kids. You do it because of your heart. You do it because of your care. That is why you do this. Otherwise, you would not be in this profession. You certainly wouldn't be here now, right? That is why we're here, one way or another. So back to the Good Samaritan. The first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stopped to help this man, what would happen to me? The Good Samaritan reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? So when we're under stress, it's me, right? If the creative thinking is him. What about him? What's going on with him? What can I do for him? Being seen, heard, and believed in by a caring adult is the most important thing we can offer as educators. So, whoops. So what I want to say is really fast. So I was at this high school in South Central, and a kid kept coming in late. The vice principal was putting him into detention for being late all the time, and he was like not paying attention, and he was not focused, and he wasn't doing his work. And then we did a professional development about all of this, and he called me up and he said, well, this was happening, but I decided to ask him what was going on. It turns out this kid was finding new ways to get to school every day because there were gangs all over that were trying to recruit him because his older brother was in a gang. And he was finding all these creative ways to get there, but he was exhausted by the time he got there, and he was always always late. And so the vice principal started giving him some time between when he got there to rest, and give him a little rest. And then he started drawing. And so then he started moving him into the art class. So then he moves into graphic design, right? And so all of this happened because he paid attention and asked questions, right? And he didn't just simply make an assumption, right? So this kid was, one thing he said was, I found a way, that no one would find me. I found a place where no one could find me. And he said, it was great, no one could find me. And then he said, what if no one can find me? And so Winnicott is a child psychoanalyst that I love that has this quote, it's a delight to be hidden, but a disaster not to be found. Our children find ways to hide. We all find ways to hide in many ways. Being perfect, being good, being in trouble, causing, there's lots of ways to razzle dazzle and hide, but we're all desperately wanting to be found and to be seen by another and for someone to see us. So what I want you to think about is that when you're stressed, when you're getting too busy, when you find yourself irritated, frustrated, angry, or just going like, I just got to get this done, to stop, consciously get in your body, slow down, and then look and see who's around you, who is in front of you, what's going on, and bring your critical thinking in through curiosity and ask questions. And then think who's around you for help, collaboration, communication, creative thinking, critical thinking, all can come in a moment, and then think about the resources that are available to you and what you really can do. Realign with your purpose. Like, what can I do right now that is the best for this child and for them moving into the world? So this is our purpose, to bring have every child fulfill that sense of joyful living and vitality and a sense of purpose themselves and a contribution they have to make to the world. Every kid I work with who's been traumatized said, I don't think it matters whether I live or die. I don't think anyone cares. It won't make a difference. I want to give something, but I don't know what to give. They all want to give something. It's creative giving, sense of agency. So with that, hopefully that'll inspire you to want to really take the work that you're already doing to the next level and all work together, utilize the resources available, which so many people have worked so hard for, and all these incredible facilities that have been created. And with that, I just want to thank you very much.